River than planes that are landing at O'Hare right now. So they wanted to be in this prime location. Now the next building we're going to talk about here on the right is the Tribune Tower. The Tribune Tower, 1925, Howells and Hood. It was designed for Colonel McCormick. He owned our Chicago Tribune, and he wanted to have a building that was beautiful because he had the world's greatest newspaper. And he said, I'm going to have a contest. We're going to just throw it out there. Anybody who wants to design a building for me can design a building for me. So there were 258 entries and from 25 different countries, and this is the one that won from Howells and Hood in New York. The top of that, it kind of looks like a cathedral fell on top of a Art Deco skyscraper, and that is fashioned after the Rouen Cathedral in France. You can tell I have a Chicago accent, can't you? Rouen. The other thing I wanted to tell you about Wrigley before we go under the bridge is that the tower, the clock tower, is fashioned after the Giralda Tower in Seville, Spain. So you've got a little bit of Spanish and French influences, keeping that going with what Daniel Burnham wanted. He wanted those people coming to Chicago and Chicagoans to kind of have a touchstone for what is considered classical architecture. Now Captain Brian's going to be going under the Michigan Avenue Bridge. It was designed for jewelers, and it was one of the first buildings that had a car elevator. So the jewelers in the 20s, the streets of Chicago were kind of dangerous, so the jewelers could just drive straight into the building with their Model T Fords and be protected. So the Berry Doughboy and the Jolly Green Giant, Snap, Crackle, Pop. So Kevin Roche was an Irish architect, and this style of postmodern, Empire State Building or the Chrysler Building, like a wedding cake, our style of Art Deco is more like a throne or an armchair, like with arms, and then you have a back. And the reason why they did this was so that you could get light and air into the building, because this is 1929, Halliburton Route. There was no air conditioning at that time, so just imagine. There was no way to get cool unless you had, you were sitting by a window. And earlier that they kind of got the idea from a column. You can see the base shaft in Capitol. This was a building that they were thinking of demolishing. It's from they thought a little harder about it, and Skidmore, Owings and Merrill came along 60 years later and built this addition to the right, and they built a mansard roof that's out of glass and doubled the interior space of the building. So it's really great. They got to keep this beautiful old structure and not demolish it. Okay, so Cohn Penderson Fox did the next three buildings on the left. They've got a New York architectural firm. This first building is 1989, and again, it's postmodern contextual. Because if you look at this building, what do you see when you look all the way up to the very top of it? It's kind of like mimicking the bridges, and then you actually have a bridge on the building that they put up there just to show that it's on the river, and to pay homage to Frank Lloyd Wright, which I'm sure many of you know was a Chicagoan. They have an urn just below that, and Frank Lloyd Wright's signature touch was an urn. That was 1989. Then we have 1983 next to it, this greenish building. It is voted one of the prettiest buildings, modern buildings in the city of Chicago every year. And it's from 1983. Same firm, Cohn Penderson Fox. Beautiful example of something that is playing with the location. It's